Don't tell me this thing just broke on me. Don't you dare. Are you serious right now? Alright, what's going on with my console? I guess it's time to go online and see if I can find any answers. Well, here's a guy that looks like he has a similar phone. Let me see what he says. A lot of people are saying it's a power supply fault. Maybe it just died? This would explain the on and off issue I'm having? I guess it's time to buy a new one and wait.
After EPS successfully delivers the item,
My power supply is finally here. Let's get this bad boy installed. If the power supply has been swapped, let's turn it on. Wait, why did it turn off? That had to have just been a fluke, right? Let's try again. Really? Really? What is going on here? Okay, so my PS3 Slim has gone wrong, and it was not the power supply. So now what do I do about it? The short answer...
Oh God, please, no! 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 No!
I'm talking about ciscon diagnosis. But wait, this console doesn't have yellow light of death, right? Well, you are somewhat correct. Yes, the yellow light of death isn't shown, but I believe that this on and off issue, I'm going to call it the no light of death just to keep it somewhat brief, is similar to the form of the yellow light of death. Let me explain. So over the course of the past few months, I have started seeing people with this on and off issue, but I noticed something, let's say, strange with how they turn off. I began noticing that they turn off at different times. Some are instant like mine, some don't turn off for a few seconds, or even longer in some cases. So if my theory is true, we should see error codes in the ciscon. But how do you do ciscon? Well, Rick Felix made an in-depth video on how to do it, so I will just leave a link to that in the description below since he explained it better than I ever could. But to sum it up, you need a UART reader, some basic soldering skills, and I would say maybe a little bit of programming knowledge just to do the commands and also understand what exactly you are doing with the ciscon. But I was able to grab my logs, and interestingly, I have a 2040 error, which I don't think I have seen before, so I decided to take a look on the dev wiki and, well, that's interesting to say the least. So there's a few issues here. 1. This is not even a super slim PS3, and 2. Whoever said it was a super slim cell error had not posted anything about what they found out about it. So basically, I have no idea where to start. I decided I needed to dig deeper into the issue, because this may be a report where they didn't post a step number, the bring up, and nothing at all. They just said it was a super slim cell error and left it at that. I decided to first try checking the fuses as a basic first step in diagnosing to see if any were blown. And interestingly, one was blown. S6300 was not showing continuity on either side on my multimeter. I am not sure exactly what could have caused it to blow, and I should note that there is always a reason for a fuse to blow, whether it be a power surge or a short on the motherboard, so replacing it might blow the fuse again. But in this case, I had so many donor boards laying around, I said I'll just keep trying to replace it first. If it blows again, then I'll work from there. So I soldered the new fuse on, put the console back together, and it booted up. I was so happy that it started working again. Now, I don't really use this console much for gaming anymore. The majority of the time, I just use it as a media player. But if I just use it as a media player, why did I put so much effort into fixing it? Well, this was kind of the reason I wanted to make this video. I was going to end the video here and say, yay, the console's fixed and working. But then I realized I really should go into detail about what exactly happened here. This has been months of research and hard work, along with collaboration from others to help me figure out what is going on. Why did Sony remove the yellow light of death? Why did they make it an on and off issue instead? So you know all fat model PS3s have the yellow light of death, right? Well, here's the thing. I only know that the 3001A has this on and off issue, aka the no light of death. Was there a change period in the Slim era that I am unaware of? Well, to find out, I grabbed my 2001A, my 2501A, and bought a 2101A from eBay with the warranty sticker intact, quote, for parts, to see if there was anything wrong and maybe if I'm missing something here. Because right now, I have no leads and I don't want to make any assumptions until I know 100% for sure. A very successful delivery from UPS yet again. The 2101A arrived after about a week and it seems to work fine. The warranty seal was intact, which is great news. I opened it up and really, another dirty console. Well, I guess it's time to clean this up. I don't know why I'm surprised to see it so dirty considering the ciscon says it has 525 days of use on it. But since it came with the original hard drive, I decided to run a diagnostics on it to see how much time it has on it, and the hard drive says it has 559 days on it, and calculating that out, that means every session this person used the console, at least 4.7 hours per session. This is kind of impressive considering the only thing wrong with it was, yeah, you see it? Yeah, blue, bad dog. Anyways, I now wanted to see what would happen if I were to simulate a yellow light of death by unplugging the 12-volt connector from the PSU to the motherboard on the 2001A, the 2101A, and the 2501A PS3s that I have laying around, just to see if any of them have the yellow light of death sequence. So I started with the 2001A, and it does in fact show the yellow light of death like any other FAT model. This is something I was not expecting, but it gives me something to look into. But it's time for the 2101A. I ran the same test and, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it didn't even show a yellow light. It just showed the same sequence, but they removed the yellow light here? Alright, now I'm just more confused than anything, but I guess it's time to check the 2501A. One more time, ran the same test, and alright, this is what I was expecting to see. It turns on, turns right back off. Same sequence as the 3001A. So, why did they make the change here? Why did they make the change the way they did? Why does the 2101A not have a yellow light, but it does have the sequence for it? Now I'm just left with more questions than I have answers, so now I really need to dig deeper. So my original hypothesis was that Sony didn't like the term yellow light of death and decided to just remove it when the slim models were released, because this was when the PS3 was completely rebranded, but I was wrong. I needed to dig deeper into the mystery, and one of my possible theories was that for a while, Sony was receiving notice about their early launch model PS3s getting the yellow light of death. In fact, the BBC made a Watchdog episode on the subject, and this made Sony furious, specifically SCE UK. But why? Well, Sony did write a letter to the BBC Watchdog after the video was released, stating some interesting points, but I will only say a certain amount as this is one very, very long but detailed letter. Sony's response to the allegations about the yellow light of death were that the phrase yellow light of death has been adopted by certain members of the online community to describe the situation in which PS3 systems have shut down following the illumination of the yellow light on the PS3's front panel. The yellow indicator is simply a non-specific fault indicator that can be triggered in a range of different circumstances. For example, it can indicate a problem caused by the console's power supply, overheating, poor ventilation, software issues, or by any one of a range of issues that may inevitably affect any complex item of consumer electronics. But if that were the case, why did they change it to an on and off issue? This gives it a different moniker to make it seem like the power supply has just randomly failed or that the board has a power issue of some kind. This is where the misconception begins.
Now here's the thing. It's not a bad thing to assume it's a power supply fault. In fact, that's a good first thing to do before going too far into the diagnosis stage of working on a console. But that's only if you have a spare power supply to try. And if you fix the console by replacing the power supply, great. But if it's still having the no light of death, then that's when you need to get into grabbing the ciscon codes to determine what is really causing your PS3 Slim or Super Slim to not work. But here's another problem. The PS3 Slim and Super Slim ciscon codes have error codes like the 2040 error we saw earlier that are not documented in our Slim or Super Slim specific codes. Although I know there are some people who are unable to solder, and that can be problematic if you're trying to fix your Slim or Super Slim PS3, and honestly, I have been there. But here's the thing. Why can't we have a secondary error code like on the 360 that is easily accessible by just pressing a couple buttons? Now, if only there was a way. So there is actually a way to easily access the secondary error code by just basically clicking a few buttons. Now, how do you do this? Well, first I need to make a note here. I could only get this to work on the 2100, 2500, and 3000 models, and I am currently unaware of it being accessible on the fat model PS3s or the 20X models or any super slim models. There may be a way to access it, but right now I am unsure. But if there is a way, leave a comment below and I'll try it out. But first, what you want to do is make sure your PS3 Slim is unplugged from main power. Then, while holding the eject button, plug the console in and keep holding it until the console turns on. This is now going to run a fan test, and it'll generally run for about 30 seconds or so, and then it'll shut down. Now that it's shut down, you'll want to hit these buttons in this specific order, and don't be too fast with it. You need to hit the power button 3 times, the eject button 3 times, and then the power button again twice. This will enable LED diag mode.
Now it should start with yellow light, and then blink either green or red. It will do 4 blinks in a row. This is one of the sequences. Make sure to take notes of the numbers. Green should be 0 and red should be a 1. In my case, you can see it shows green, green, red, green, 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 red, green, 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 green. Well, what does this mean? Well, at first I thought it was in numerical order, so the red being in the 3rd position meant it was a 3, in the 2nd position a 2, and so on. But this didn't make sense to me, because that meant I had a 3020 error, and so far I don't know of any reports of that error, and I know what the last code of this console was, a 2040, so this didn't add up. Plus on the dev wiki, someone said they had the sequence turned into a green, red, so that just blew my thought right out the window immediately. But then I thought, maybe it was in hexadecimal, so I tried that, and well, that was not even close to any kind of error I have seen. I kept getting 17 for one of the numbers, 16 for one of them, and so on, so this just didn't add up. So then I thought, well, hold on, it could be in binary. So I typed each of the 4 numbers in the sequence, and when you know it, I got the 2040 error I was looking for. But there was one thing that didn't add up. You see, on the dev wiki, someone had a red, 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 red. I think when it does red, 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 it's producing an F. So it could be for a 5FFF error or a 14FF error. So from the dev wiki, the guy who had the error code had 5FFF. From what I can tell, they use the green and red light to show a binary code that you then convert to hexadecimal to get an error code without opening the console. Now this does make diagnosis and repair much easier for the average consumer, as that allows you to know what to do, but that's if you know what that code means, which back then we didn't. But now we do. But I will say this, it will be better for research purposes to provide the full error log, because then we can see the step numbers, new codes we haven't seen before, and then provide the history of the console as well, and then take any note of previous repair attempts, damage, or anything that can help us determine how we can reproduce the error for testing and how we can help you produce this error for testing purposes to see if they can be replicated through sabotage testing and hopefully fix other people who may come up with this error code in the future. So here's the big question I have. Why would Sony decide that the release of the 2100 PS3 Slim is the time to program an easy-to-access secondary error code without voiding your warranty? Well, unfortunately, I don't really have a strong answer for this. Maybe they were just trying to make it so that when a customer called Sony, the representative can tell the user a step-by-step way to tell them how to get the error code and tell that to the representative to determine if it's an easy fix or if they need to send it into Sony. Because before, you would just tell them the console turned off with a yellow light and you had no choice but to send it to Sony because they have no way of telling you what's going on. or how to help you out in any way.
Basically, with everything I have learned so far, I'm not exactly sure what
Sony was thinking by changing this error code sequence, but I do know this. The PS3 Slim and Super Slim turning on and off is not always something as simple as a power supply or a power issue. I have personally fallen victim to this misdiagnosis many times, and the whole point of this video was just to share what I have learned and make sure people understand that the no light of death is not always a power supply fault. It's just a good idea to have a $4 UART reader. It's not expensive, and if you do some practice soldering and have some wires, you'll eventually be able to learn how to do it. And grabbing the ciscon codes from there is easy, if you get the wiring done. Now, it's better to just do this than guess what the problem is, because let's say you spend $25 on a power supply. What if it doesn't work? You're out $25, and that $25 you could have spent on something else, like the UART reader, and then maybe a couple snacks if you wanted them, for some reason.
After all, we don't want another misdiagnosis like the yellow light of death being the tokens, right?
Now, I hope that we can put this misdiagnosis completely behind us and move forward. I would like to see this video make a difference and help people understand that the PS3 turning on and off is not always related to one cause, that it can, in fact, be caused by anything or everything on the motherboard. Now, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later.